Hello, very good evening.
Very, very good evening to you, Avneet, and to everyone. We're doing a live after quite a bit of an interval today, so I'm pretty excited, to give a lot of updates to our network, and especially because it's the time of the year that we eagerly wait for, which is October. And why is that, Avneet?
It's because one of our largest projects for the year, in order to enable growth for founders and for anyone who's looking to explore global expansion, comes into being. And I think today's webinar is what we are calling Gateway to the Middle East, because we want to highlight and spotlight all those possible opportunities that, if this is you that is wanting to build a global business, have international operations, then how can you simplify that and do that in the fastest way possible? We are going to be unveiling something super special, but Dee, I'll let you set a little bit of intro context and then dive into what we've prepared for today.
Absolutely. So, 4 years ago, about 3.5, 4 years ago, we decided to launch a chapter of Encubay in the Middle East, in Dubai. And there were two specific reasons for us to do that. One is, we did realize that the world is moving west to east, and the Middle East is literally at the realm of it. It is a space where technology meets innovation, meets money, right? And we feel it's truly the right time to leverage that entire business landscape. So that was reason number one. And the second reason, of course, Avneet, my partner, is based out of Abu Dhabi. She's born and bred there. So she's seen the entire ecosystem build up, ground up from scratch. And we as Encubay, because we are a global network that enables founders to raise scale and go global, we wanted to open up the Middle East ecosystem very seamlessly for anyone looking to expand there. So that's a little bit of context of how the Global Immersion Week came together, and let's dive into it, Avneet. And then, of course, we have two very special speakers who will be joining us for the second half.
Super. So, this journey that started on 11th November 2021, which was us as Encubay expanding operations internationally to the Middle East, saw many highlights or continues to see many highlights in its journey, whether that is organizing large scale summits, whether it's doing multiple ecosystem meetups, monthly, founder circles, which we call power circles, to bring the community together. And last but not the least, the Global Immersion Week, which is what this is our third edition, and this is something that we're going to be unveiling today, because the third edition gets 3x bigger. I want to show you guys a video before I kind of dive into why we're doing this, how did it come about, and what's in store for you in the third edition. So, requesting my team to please bring up the video, and then we'll dive in.
Wow, that was power packed, and I do want to give a special shout out to our esteemed marketing partner for the Immersion Week, Social Gamma, who so beautifully put this video together, which captured highlights from last year. And in fact, Ria, the founder at Social Gamma, will soon be joining us on stage for a tete-a-tete with her. But for now, let's dive in.
Super. So when we started, I mean, the first year, we've been very blessed with the kind of work that we've done in India, where we had the opportunity 3 years ago to partner with one of the world's largest tech, trade, and entrepreneurship shows called GITEX. With 3 years of being, continued partners with them, GITEX is a mega festival which draws nearly 3 lakh visitors year on year from around the globe. And today, if as a startup, if as a business you're looking and you're considering global expansion, it's quite I'm pretty sure that you're going to get lost trying to navigate the entire system of how Dubai works as a business landscape, and more so how Jitex works and how to leverage that opportunity when the entire world is in one place. So, having done this now for 3 years, we at Encubay have simplified this entire journey for various attendees who are a part of our delegation. Last year, we were blessed to take almost 30 founders from India to the Middle East to explore global expansion. This time, we want to make it 3x bigger. So, I am going to request Siley to please bring up the presentation. I'm unable to stream it. So, requesting you to please open that up. Sally, if you click on present in the bottom navigation and click on slides, you should be able to stream it. It's the third presentation, which says LinkedIn Live.
I think in the meanwhile, I also do want to, shed some light on why do we do this during GITEX and why do we really bring up this entire event together. Now, GITEX, as a lot of you know, is the largest trade and tech show that happens in the Middle East, non-Americas. You have almost 100,000 odd people visiting, and you have, from businesses to experts to investors to big corporates across sectors, be part of this entire, you can say, entrepreneurship show. Right? So GITEX is one of the most relevant times for anyone to visit the Middle East because the entire world collides in the Middle East at that time. Now, while GITEX happens as a big show, right? Like there are, like I said, 100,000 odd people, tons of exhibitors. It's spread across two different locations in Dubai, right? There is so much to witness, that's so much to view, and sometimes you might end up getting lost in this huge crowd, in the chaos, right? And that's the reason why we actually introduced the Encubay Global Immersion Week, where the idea was that if you're a business founder, if you are an investor, and you want to leverage the most from this entire GITEX experience, come and be part of the Global Immersion Week, which is a way for you to elevate your experience. So GITEX happens from 10 to 5 in the morning, and 7 to 10 is when Encubay puts together very strongly curated signature events where we invite our entire network, to be there, right? These are namely a lot of our advisors, a lot of experts, investors, right? So that you get an overview of what does it look like to build, start, and scale a business in the Middle East. And, while some of you are hearing about GITEX for the first time, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Dubai. So, Avni, tell us a little bit more from your lens, right? What makes Dubai so special, and why should every entrepreneur consider it?
Dubai today has grown into becoming one of the world's global economic hubs where it's the center of tech, innovation, funding, and I think the recent laws, which are around 100% ownership of your company, tax benefits that you have, very, very evolved infrastructure that you have, also it being the gateway to the rest of the world, right? Where it's so super accessible to, if to the States, to Africa, to the rest of the GCC region. So there's a lot of opportunities that can be opened up for you if you are centered in Dubai, right? And it's also the fastest and the easiest way to expand out of India, with having such a large Indian population and access to another bunch of melting pot of cultures. So your obvious question might be that, okay, this sounds interesting, that I want to go and explore business opportunities in Dubai, but how can I participate? If you are a founder, what you can do is become a delegate, where you get access depending on your business needs. We curate this entire experience for you, where whether it's attending North Star, which is Jitech's startup focused show, or Jitex Global, which is the mega expo with multiple events happening under it, and then followed by the Encubay Immersion Week in the evening from 7 to 10, where each day, what makes Encubay Immersion Week special is that each day is dedicated to you decoding the business landscape in Dubai and also meeting with relevant stakeholders. So there's a day that's dedicated to investors, there's a day that's dedicated to meeting the rest of the tech ecosystem, there's a day where it's not just Dubai, but you can also explore Abu Dhabi. There's a day where if you're looking at engaging with family offices, how do you continue to do that? So as a founder, you have access to different days where in a very strategic manner you're able to engage with the ecosystem at large and also understand what your step by step process is to setting up in Dubai. If you are a brand who is looking to gain popularity, visibility, attract clients, looking for brand awareness, then how you can partner with us is by co-hosting one of these 5-day events with us, where as per your brand objectives, we tailor make the experience for you and for the attendees. So
Amazing. And
yes.
Avneet, I want to add something here, right? And, this is literally the value add for anyone who's really looking forward to attend. We spent 3 years, and Avneet before that, a lot of years in her life to, decode the startup ecosystem in the Middle East, right? And if today you, as a business owner, as an investor, would want to go on your own to start building that network or decode that from scratch, it's going to take you at least 5 to 7 visits and at least a year and a half to two, right? When you're part of the Encubay Global Immersion Week, you get that in 1 week, in 5 days, in one trip, right? And I can't think of a trip that can be more productive, where in the morning you're spending time at Jitex at North Star, right? You're attending the tech show, you're looking at what innovation is, you're looking at, talking to different stakeholders, potential collaborators, clients. And then every day, 7 to 9, like Avneet said, there's a specially curated event where you will meet the relevant folks, and especially the creme de la creme of the Dubai ecosystem. So for anyone who's listening in, this is our message to you. If you have intent, we have the way to show you to make that forward. So hop on to the Global Immersion Week and unlock global expansion by being part of this. The dates are 13th to 17th October. I repeat again, 13th to 17th October. My team will leave a comment in the chat where you can go and read more about this. Otherwise, just send one of us a DM. You can fill up a form and get on a call with us to help you understand whether this is relevant and what is the way that you can engage. So with that, I think, we've covered the meat of the conversation.
We have a question that's come in from someone who asks, is this relevant only to female founders?
Great question, Sahil, and thank you for bringing that out. So, yes, initially when we started off 3 years ago, this was open to women, but this year the delegation is open 50-50. We're looking to take 70 founders from India and rest of the world, and 50% of those are going to be women and 50% are going to be men. So this is absolutely relevant for you. So please go ahead and you can get in touch with us.
So yes, to kind of close the note on that, I encourage all of you to go to our website, which is encubay.com. If you click on Encubay Global, you'll see the Dubai Immersion Week, where this entire proposition in a lot more depth is laid out. Please go ahead, fill in the application form, register your interest, and we will set up a call with you to decide the next steps. And we look forward to having you on board.
Super. So, Siley, let's get on our two very esteemed speakers on stage.
Superb. We have two phenomenal women with us, Dee, which is Ria Kothari and Chandni Jaffrey. I am going to let them do their intros shortly. But the idea of us unveiling this, largest project of the year for us and having two of you is because both of you are stalwarts in your respective fields, where Chandni comes from the investing ecosystem, Ria comes from digital marketing, and both of them have played a role in helping a lot of founders go global, right? And when we are talking about unlocking global expansion, I couldn't think of a better time to have these two minds talk about where people usually go wrong and how can they, maneuver that strategically. So, Dee, I'm going to bring you on to do the honors and, dive in, just set the context for both of them, and then we dive into questions. Okay, I think Diksha's camera is stuck. So I'm going to do a little bit of intro. Diksha, are you back?
I think he's back.
Diksha, are you back?
Yeah, sorry, I just had a little bit of a glitch. I'm back. Great. Ria, Chandni, welcome to this amazing LinkedIn Live, and so lovely to have both of you amazing women with us today.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you. It's great to be here.
Super great. So let me do quick, introductions for both of you, and then I would also want you all to add, and we can sort of dive into questions. So, Chandni, let me start with you. And for those of you who don't know Chandni, please get to know her. She's literally, like I say, the OG of the venture investing, venture capital ecosystem in the country. She's been an active angel investor since a long time. She was very, very pivotal in setting up Mumbai Angels, which was one of the pioneer angel networks in the country. She's also set up VC Circle. She's been part of Money Control. So basically, any kind of big property that you think of, which is very, very relevant to the venture capital and ecosystem, Chandni has been part of setting that up, right? So Chandni, that's why I call you the OG of the startup, venture capital ecosystem. And of course, since then, Chandni has invested in a lot of businesses. She has advised a lot of entrepreneurs who've gone on to build big companies. And currently, she actively consults, startups, businesses who are looking to fundamentally make sense of their business, right? Triple line, profitable is what she says, and I'll ask her what that means. And then, of course, she also advises a lot of businesses who want to go global or global money that wants to enter India, right? So, Chani, glad to have you. Ria Mehta Kothari, such a pleasure to have you here with us. Ria is, again, someone who's been an expert in the digital space. She's the founder at Social Gamma. You can check that out. And they're a 360-degree firm that does everything under digital, right? Right from your sort of branding to, your social media campaigns to paid ad campaigns. And in fact, one of the things that I feel I have only heard her talk about is they actually help founders raise investments through LinkedIn targeted campaigns, which I thought was phenomenal. And it's the need of the hour. And Ria, we will pick your brain a little bit later into the session into how you do that and what's your advice for founders who are looking to do that, right? But Chandni, let me, start with you, right? You have been a very strong proponent of, saying companies need to be focused on fundamentals of a business, right? Especially when it comes to Indian startups, right? And you've also termed the triple bottom line, right? You've also written a book, I'm aware of that. So can you help us understand from your sort of perspective, what are those fundamentals that businesses need to keep in mind when they start scaling up or when they think of sort of going global?
Right. Thank you, Diksha, for that very generous introduction and actually summarizing it so beautifully. And I mean, you've given me too much credit, but I suppose it is what it is. So let me bask in it and enjoy it. Um, so I just wanted to add that, I've been involved with startups even before I had the vocabulary for startups. I didn't even know that they were called startups. And it's only over a period of time that I realized, oh, I'm doing startups. And then of course, natural extension of that was, getting involved in the angel investing, venture capital system. So it's been a very organic journey for me, very internally guided, minus all the terminology and anything else that existed at that point in time. So what I realized, working across companies is that there is a method to scaling, and those fundamentals are like principles. They are immutable. It's not like, you learn it as you go and on the fly you learn and you do trial and error. There are certain principles that I've been able to distill over my 25-year old journey, where I now know what works and what is a formula. And so we've been able to kind of come up with that formula. And what it basically, actually, it's really very simple and very common sense that capital never solves the problem. So the problem with most startups is that they believe that just capital raising is, going to propel them to the next level of trajectory, or going to make them sustainable, or going to get them to get fantastic valuation, or what have you, get them in the unicorn club, etc. But actually, as you know, the statistics, 90% of the nearly 90% of the funded startups fail. And I'm not even talking about startups per se. The success rate in startups, as you know, is like in single digit numbers. But 90%, more than 90% of these funded startups fail. So, which means capital is not the problem. So, I realized that we are trying to fix the wrong problem for a very, very long time, because I've been an investor myself. And, so what happens that, once you invest, and so it's also that when you're not able to generate ROI, or your money gets locked and there's no exit outcome. So many times the startups are not able to give you any ROI and your money just sits there. It gets locked, right? So it's not creating value either for the startup or for you. Nobody. So the ecosystem doesn't grow. So the problem that we realize, and now there's a lot of stats that backs it, and my company SLSP today has been actively sort of evangelizing this. We are consulting. We work with more than 100 companies, and they're all, I would say, early stage, not all startups, with some traction, with some fundamentals. And we realize, if you look at global statistics, it says that if you put together a templatized coaching plus mentoring module, not the mentoring in the way it's understood today. So current mentoring model is what? That a mentor will come, will take some equity, and as and when basis, there's no obligation. It's just that they are equipped to do it, and as and when basis they can support, they do it, right? In lieu of equity. So our model says we will commit to your growth. We will remove the uncertainty and it's growth guaranteed. So we work on predefined milestones. We work alongside those companies and give them that structure and the template, so their success is guaranteed. So if you look at the global statistics also, if you install a coaching template and a structure like that, what happens that the success rate increases by, like, it doubles compared to where you were earlier. Okay, and these are global stats. And in our case, in fact, when we've worked with companies, we have noticed that the first advantage they get is, of course, on the ROI, that they were able to return to the investor. And the second advantage they get is that they get the scaling strategy in place. And the third advantage they get is they become sustainable, meaning they know that they can organically grow. See, if I were to say, like, the thesis that we have is that capital per se does never solves the problem. It's your business model, it's the fundamentals of the business, and the age old principles of, profit loss, margins, consumers, markets, all those fundamentals. The basic business model has to be organically sufficient, meaning, so you don't raise funding for solvency. Okay, you raise funding to scale. So, so it means that it's not like you cannot exist more than 10 months if you didn't raise money. And 99% of the startups are raising money just to solve the solvency problem. So really, that's the problem, and that's why we feel like the ecosystem is broken. That's the problem that we are facing. And we've seen some excellent results. We work with close to 100 companies, and most of them have nearly doubled their revenues and their profitability has increased by nearly 2 to 3 times in a short period of time.
Chandni, we are
So I
losing
hope
you a
that
little.
sort of,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just come back to you, but I totally get your point. It's more about, I think, something that you said, right? That you don't need to raise funds to become solvent. You need to raise funds because you need to invest it in the business to grow. So I think that's a great sort of value add, and thank you for bringing it out. Avneet, over to you to pick Ria's brain a little bit now.
Hello.
Ria, I'm
Yeah.
super curious, because I mean, when we talk of digital marketing, right, it's such a vast, expanse of so many different possibilities that are doable, right? And as a founder, you are always wanting to grow. You always are, strapped for cash. But at the same time, you'll also hear the metric where everyone will be like, what's your CAC, right? And how can you reduce your CAC? So, talk to me. You personally have, grown an international business in a realm like digital marketing. You do such a lot of different things, which is helping founders with investor outreach, securing global investments. Talk to me about how did you personally do it, and what are some of those insights that you think other people should know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit of background on me as well. From what you've said, thank you so much for the introduction. I can just go through a little bit, a few points on how we can maybe help, some of the listeners with, potentially fundraising, scaling their businesses. But just to also touch on some of Chandni's points, I think definitely there is, a lack of focus on delivering results, which we're seeing now with the markets as well. With a lot of hype which was going on with technology and startups, but there's also a big need for delivering results and actually showing for that. So we've seen that a lot with our clients as an agency as well. So I'll give you background on us and a little bit of how we've helped our clients. So as you'd mentioned, we are a full service agency. I started the agency now almost 7 years ago. I'm originally from Singapore, so had a base there, and now also moved to LA, then moved to London. So I have clients pretty much everywhere globally, and now we're really focusing on helping our clients with investor marketing, which is essentially helping them with fundraising and having those conversations with potential investors. So that's something that we do as in addition to being a full service agency as well. And some of the things that we have seen in this space is it's really important to really be solving a problem and connecting authentically with investors and your own customer base, your own networks as well. And I think that's probably number one, really discovering your value. So as an agency, we've also coined this term called value based marketing, essentially helping our clients discover how are they really solving a problem, like what are they going to be known for, and then using that messaging to have those conversations very organically and building their own networks. So definitely number one is building a very genuine network with organic connections that will help you with prospective clients, with investors as well. And we built a specific template of which we go by, but we also customize to help outreach to investors. So as a result of that, we've raised $5.5 million for our clients purely through targeting investors on LinkedIn. And our approach is very simple. We like to keep it simple. So really understanding who would be most interested in investing in your company, creating a plan on how you're going to target that with very authentic, genuine messaging, straight to the point, and making sure that all of your outreach, everything that you're doing, is very consistent with who you are and what you're doing as well. Because honestly, if you're looking at angels, they don't have the time to really you know uh, kind of read through a lot of information. They really want to just be spoon fed exactly what you're doing and how you're going to be benefiting them as well ultimately. So that's something that's really important. And I think there's just so many ways where you can really strengthen your efforts, especially as you'd mentioned, like we've helped a lot of companies from India go global, and then global companies come into India, vice versa. So really understanding the market that you're targeting. So for example, in Singapore, one of the markets that we work in is very, very focused on helping tech savvy audiences that are ideal for maybe adopting new digital tools or products. In the US, there's a huge demand for innovation, so it has to be very data driven, whatever you're doing. In India, it's a mobile first culture where I think the stat is 91% of people of the internet is using mobile. And then in London, it's a mix of traditional and digital that needs to be addressed for the market there. So really understanding who the market is, and tailoring your approach for that specific market. So that's key when it
So,
comes
Vidya,
to
what
the.
would you say, for founders who, I mean, let's say that, they've never done international business, right? They've been building a product or a service in India, and now they, let's say, consider looking at the Middle East. What would you say is, I mean, what are the mistakes that you see other startups make? Is it that they jump into doing this with a half-baked deck or whatever? What are those startling mistakes that you think pop out, which others should avoid?
Yeah, I think definitely one is know your customer and know what, the kind of approach that they would be comfortable with. So, for example, in different demographics, people are expecting a different, tone of voice, expecting different delivery, some sort of maybe connection as well, some warm messaging in certain places, like in the US, they really appreciate that. So, really understanding how to really approach them in a way that connects with them. That's number one. Number two is also figuring out your pricing and your price points, and how your financial model for each specific geography, because obviously that will be different for a variety of different reasons. So if it's a product, then shipping costs, or if it's a service, then seeing what their expectations are from you and working backwards from that and how much you can charge. So I think that's definitely something that people underestimate or overestimate as well. um, and then I think also another mistake that people really make when approaching a global audience is using the what's worked in their local geography, and applying that internationally, where you have to approach it as a completely brand new project, that is starting pretty much from ground zero. And also understanding that you don't have to achieve it all in on day one. Like, you should be testing everything and seeing what sticks with this new audience. So that's really important. And of course, I think before doing anything, really figuring out a media plan that works really well for you. So seeing the numbers of, let's say, like you're targeting the US, for example, seeing the CPC for that specific channel, the customer acquisition cost, expected budgets. So figuring all of that, because so sometimes, if, for example, an Indian brand, if they're going international, they might not realize that the costs of advertising can be much higher. So really factoring that into their plan.
Gotcha. Super. That's extremely valuable. Chania, I want to flip it to you. I mean, at one end, there is Ria, who's, of course, doing the strategic outreach for these startups and leveraging platforms like LinkedIn, like email, etc., to, connect with investors like yourself. I would assume you receive at least, I mean, how many decks do you receive in a day, in a month? And what is your preferred approach to people, reaching out to you?
Yeah, so yes, I mean, multiple double digit numbers on a daily basis, and I do get flooded via LinkedIn, email, etc. Sometimes even over WhatsApp, if they get the number. So yes, but I think the preferred approach would always be if it is through a reference. I think if is possible, like somebody endorses you either from the network or somebody that I know who, and it's very easy to find that out. So if you can put a reference out saying, hey, by the way, I'd like you to take a look at this startup and I thought you'd like. So cold outreach usually, personally for me, because I can't go through the deck and I don't have time to go through it. But if it's somebody which is, within my 6 degrees of separation network, then what I can do is, I get that endorsement helps me, and then I can ask a few questions and take interest and get to the next stage of evaluating a startup. And we do it for two reasons, right? We have two filters. One is, of course, if they're fund ready, and second, if we can help them grow in terms of our escalation and acceleration plan that we have. So both those sort of filters we use. So for that, we need to get them to the step two. So we also, like Priya pointed out, there is a problem in the pitch deck not being right, the numbers not adding up, just hygiene. So even hygiene elements play along. So even if everything is right and suddenly the deck doesn't add up or there are some issues, just the basic issues, that can put an investor off because it gives an impression that you just don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, hygiene is very important. And I think endorsement, reference, testimonials, real customer testimonials, and
Chandni, you're breaking up for us. Are you there?
all right. Is it better?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I
Can you
did
see
want
me now?
to, yeah,
Okay,
we can.
sorry.
Yeah. I did want to touch upon something else, right? There are a lot of international investors. Especially, I remember having this conversation with you, right? There are a lot of investors from the Middle East, Dubai, Saudi, who are very, very keen to invest in startups in India. So, for someone, right, who is looking at these startups from an investor lens, because you come from that background, what is it that you look for in some of these startups? So how can they really like put out a healthy sort of an image or work on their fundamentals, so that if they have that aspiration to go global and get foreign money, they kind of tick the boxes? So like if you can expand that, what that hygiene means.
Right. So see, first is they need to have their business model right. And like I said, they should not be raising funds for solvency purposes. It should not be that they don't have, a runway for more than 10 months. Any investor would like to know that you have a runway for more than 10 to 12 months and you can sustain on your own in case you don't raise the funds. That's two. Second, you should have a consistent growth plan, year on year growth plan, and you should have some initial traction as well. There are a lot of startups who do just a hockey stick projection, which is totally unrealistic. So if you're making those unrealistic plans, they get caught up very easily, and then you lose credibility because one, you never deliver, and secondly, even at the plan stage, there's nothing concrete that you're putting in. So you should always, even if you have to undercommit, it's all right. But what happens is that the startups tend to over sort of show a delivery curve which is possibly never going to happen. So avoid that. Don't overcommit, over deliver. So that you should always know. Third thing is you must commit to an ROI, because an investor is looking for ROI. So he should see a clear exit path for himself. Meaning, any investor usually has a 3 to 5 year horizon for an investment. So as a startup, I should know that an investor would like to see a return and what is his return expectation. So you must map the investor return expectation, and pretty much you should have very good communication and stakeholder management tactics. You have to learn it, you have to groom in that, because you'll be surprised that how many startups fail because they just don't get along with the investors. So many times it's just personality
Yeah.
clashes. You don't know how to engage with investors. You don't know. And then instead of working coherently as a team, they start working at cross purposes. Or maybe, and it's quite common actually, really very common. So, consistent communication with a clear stakeholder management plan. How are you going to how are you going to kind of talk to them and show them that there's money is in good hands and it's your responsibility? What I'm seeing, there seems to be a tendency in Indian startups is that once they raise funds, they usually are not, they just feel they're not answerable. It's usually very difficult to, in fact, we struggle a lot doing portfolio management for some of our portfolio companies because they were not forthcoming with numbers. They don't know how to structure it. They don't know what to give us. So that's a very, so this whole investor management, stakeholder management is a very big part, because foreign investors are looking at transparency. They're looking at compliances. They're looking at governance, and that gives them comfort that there's money, their money is going to come back. Of course, they're looking for ROI, but they're also looking. So they really struggle in this area. It's a pain point, that compliance, governance, communication, structured sort of comebacks, etc. And actually, and third point is to have, like I said, a clear exit plan, exit strategy, communicate that, and constantly look for how I'm going to give the next round raise. So you have to, once you've raised fund, you have to constantly have a clear 5 year strategy to continue to fundraise, so that that one investor comes in, he wants to know that I have an exit path, because IPO route usually is far fetched. So those are the basic hygiene points that you need to keep in mind, because an investor is also an entrepreneur, and he
Right.
needs to see, right, he needs to see that his money is in good hands and it's going to give me ROI. And I think from a global investor perspective, they also give you some brownie points if you have a clear ESG strategy or the triple
Wow.
bottom line strategy. They give a lot of weightage to that, because that means that you have a social conscience. You are chasing impact. You're trying to create a legacy. You're not a fly by night operator, etc.
Right.
So what happens is that triple bottom line that I kind of keep proposing and evangelizing, and which you brought up during the introduction as well. It's what is triple bottom line? It just says people, planet, profits. So profits first, yes, but what is the people capital you're creating, what is the value you're creating, what is the impact you're creating, and what is the planet consciousness that your business has. So if you're able to demonstrate that, that doesn't mean that it has to come at the expense of profits. A lot of startups and early stage company think that this whole ESG and people planet, this cost, it's a cost that I have to pay, and I should just do away with it, and what is the need? Actually, it's an investment you make which pays you very rich dividends over a period of time. With
Yeah.
it's a cumulative growth that you will see in these. If an investment is what, in terms of just putting it in your business plans and having that approach, right? So these are the couple of things that, and also like I said, credibility is usually a credibility loss that Indian startups face with foreign investors, and they are very cagey, and they worry whether whether I'm actually investing in a due diligent startup. So they really struggle with those kind of issues.
Super. No, Chandni, thanks for sort of, bringing this out. And I'm going to pick Ria's brain here, right? You spoke about something very relevant, which is stakeholder management, right? Today, as a company, you have to have a sort of presence across with your customers, with your, internal team, with your advisors, with your investors, if any, right? Now, keeping that in mind, you have to be very, very conscious of the messaging. So, Ria, let me bring you up, right? How do you use how do you use platforms available today for better messaging to these various stakeholders?
Right. Okay. So there's so many different, there's so many available options in terms of platforms that you can use to really engage and build a community. But I think number one is that it's not about the number of people as much as people would, like more followers. It's not really about the numbers. It's about the engagement and having those real conversations and authentic relationships with your community. And that really boils down to this marketing acronym that's there. It's CARE, which is consistency, adaptability, research, and engagement. So it's really important to have those four pillars as part of your strategy when you're approaching your community on those social platforms, and really predefining where do your ideal customers or cheerleaders or investors or whatever you're actually targeting, where do they sit? Is it on LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, you name it? So it could be a mix of different channels that you would explore, but don't spread yourself too thin. Focus on two or three channels, and specifically use your tailored messaging for that channel. So it could be a completely different approach that you have as one single company on those various channels, because you have different audiences, you have different goals. But it has to, really speak your brand, no matter what. So even if it's a different type of messaging, it still has to be consistent with who you are and your brand.
Got that. So,
Yeah.
Rhea, also help me understand, right? Like, you know I'm sure you manage marketing campaigns for companies that are sort of built globally, and for brands in India that are trying to kind of go global now, right? So any sort of differentiators in terms of you see the founders with with respect to marketing, or how they position themselves, right? And the reason I'm sort of coming to is this is right, like Indian founders, like it's a good thing that they want to be more frugal, but sometimes I feel we're more penny wise and pound foolish, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
how do you really see differences, and what would your advice be to a founder today who is an Indian founder but wants to step into the global world, right? What should be their perspective change when it comes to marketing of the brand?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a valuable question. Founders everywhere are so different. It also depends on which industry. So some industries focus more on scale and raising funds and getting a higher valuation. So that's one type of company. Another type of company is focused on making money. So it really depends which industry you're in. But if you had to say holistically, I would say that Indian founders, yes, definitely, because the lack of funding is influencing their reaction to that, and how they're able to still survive despite the lack of funding, which is something that you know founders in the West or internationally can learn from as well, in terms of really focusing on proving the concept, because it's much easier to get funding outside, but it's also something that might not require the proof of concept early on, and then they are inevitably going to fail because the proof of concept doesn't work. So that's one point that is different from working with my founders internationally and founders in India. But I think there's just so much that you can learn from each other, and different places provide you with this different challenges, and you have to adapt for that. Yeah.
Any success stories from the founders that you've been working with that you can share with us, that this company really did well and Social Gamma was able to really contribute to that success.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with some really big names as well, like Infosys and Rolls Royce and Nissan and other brands as well. But I would say the startups that have really we've really supported, for example, this company Fruit Street. It's based in New York. They're a diabetes prevention app. We help them raise you know a lot significant funds just purely through LinkedIn ads. So that was one of our biggest successes. And then using that model, we then started doing the fundraising for other clients, and now we've been doing it for 16 clients, which has been really rewarding as well. But it's also taught us a lot in terms of how to approach investors on LinkedIn, what they're looking for as well, and how we can tailor that for various industries. So we've worked in digital health, cybersecurity, fintech, IT, a lot of different technology companies, but they've all had a different story. I would say, we've also learned so much in the last 7, 8 years now of doing this. Um, but yeah, I think investor marketing has definitely been one of the most successful and rewarding services that we do.
Fantastic. And, for anyone listening, I think it's a great way. It's a very new age way of reaching out. Well, of course, I totally agree with Chandni that a lot of times investment decisions are referral based and based on connections. But, I'm very pleasantly surprised to hear that Ria's team has been able to help founders, raise this through LinkedIn. So kudos to you, Ria. And, for anyone in the audience who wants to explore this, you can definitely get in touch with her. Chandni, my final question to you is going to be, around the fact that yes, India is becoming a hotspot for startups, right? In terms of how the global money views startups, right? So, if someone today in the audience is extremely keen to take their business to the next level globally, right? Like a lot of what we do at Encubay is actually set up these easy trade corridors between different countries, and we've started between India and Middle East, so that as a founder you can access networks, you can access capital, you can access knowledge, right? So for someone, Chandni, who's looking to kind of expand from here, right, what should their thought process be? What fundamentals should they be checking, and what should their sort of investor checklist be like?
So basically, I think I would say about 5 to 8 things that I can think of in terms of top checklist, right? If you're really serious about scaling, first question, if you're really serious about scaling, and second is if you want to scale globally. So these are like two different tasks that you need to first imprint in your DNA. Okay, so the scale thinking, like I said, the first principle of scale thinking is uh, you don't have to rely on external funding first. You should be solvent, so that irrespective of whether you should always have an organic business model which will keep your operations going. It's not like you don't know after 6 months how you're going to pay the salary of, or how you're going to conduct that project, or how you can hire new people. So you need to have a 10-12 month runway in place. That's very, very important. Okay, you need to have a very sound business model, which means that it should track to 20 to 30% IRR for an investor. So you need to structure your business model in such a way that, so don't go and show, see, nobody's interested in one exponential hockey stick growth rate, which you're never going to deliver. So please have a very sensible, and you have set like two slabs saying this much I'll definitely do, and this is what I'm chasing. So make sure that the numbers you project, you are going to deliver on. Don't just put numbers out. And let me tell you, 90% of the startups are guilty of this. They
Yeah.
don't honor the numbers they put out. So because they just want to show, oh my God, I'm going to be this like hockey stick. So that's the second mistake that you must avoid. The third thing you should get right is your team dynamics, and get your team dynamics and the culture sorted. People underestimate this in startups, and they really don't pay attention to the skill sets and how the skill sets of the the founding team can be upgraded. So, like the what we do is that we work alongside such founders and set them up for success, long-term success. So, a business grows to the extent that the founder grows, right? So, like what is our thesis is that forever growing entrepreneurs create forever growing companies, which create forever growing economies. That's our thesis. It works like that. So if you are not upgrading your skill set, and you don't have that kind of imprinted, and you don't have that culture of learning and upgrading your skill set, you will not be able to scale uh, at any level, even locally or globally. You cannot scale. The fourth important principle, I think, is to, like I said, compliances. Be very serious about it, because we are notorious, in this area, and we don't give it credence. So, compliances, governance, board level transparency, so communication transparencies, these things are very, very go a long way. Like, there are no shortcuts to success. These are the things that go a long way to in ensuring and instilling. Because see, once you're in the market, it's not like you're just going to raise money once. You will continue to raise money, and you'll continue to grow. So it's an organic cycle that you have to create. Also, I think the next point I'd like to stress upon is that most companies, they kind of make raising money a way of life for themselves. That's all they do, because they get
Yeah.
caught in that circle. So they raise once, and they give an
And
exit, and then they raise again, and they give an exit.
I'm gonna put your thing as like 10 commandments for startups. I literally
Yeah. So they keep doing this one after the other, and there is no real business model. There is
yeah.
no real business model. So even if you're going to show some early growth, and you may just deliver also, and you do governance also, but if you really don't have a clear business model, then it's not going to work out. Then, like I talked about, triple bottom line. So many companies think that, oh, it's an indulgence to talk about what is this sustainability. This is like too fancy. It doesn't make sense to me, etc. They feel it's some kind of indulgence or superfluous concept. What is this triple bottom line? You know, so that has to change if they have to scale globally, because there's a lot of weightage that the rest of the global economies put on these principles. So in the startup world, they think that, okay, which means, okay, if I'm doing people planet, then I don't need to do profits.
Hmm.
That doesn't work out. You need to do
Absolutely.
all. Yeah, you don't just do people planet and say, hey, I'm doing this and I'm changing the world, etc. So but that doesn't work out. And so that balance, if you can strike, so like that's why companies like us are able to help them strike that balance and make sure that they are profitable when they do impact and chase impact. Okay. And I think most importantly, please be there for the fundamentals of the business, which is what? To serve the customer in the
Yeah.
best way you can. You only exist for that. You don't exist to serve your investor. You don't exist to serve some other stakeholder, governance or regulator. You are only in the business of serving your customer, and that is your business. So that part you need to get right, and there should be no shortcuts around it. You have to be very clear who your customer is, how you're going to serve them, how do you need to over deliver to your customer. And if you get that part right, I think pretty much that's really what it is. And that will help you scale in India or wherever, locally, globally, wherever you go. These fundamentals don't get compromised. This is what it is anywhere else, so that in any business. So, and also I feel, philosophically speaking, the nature of business is to grow exponentially. It's like an amoeba microorganism. It just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. That's if you're not doing something fundamentally wrong on its own steam, it has the potential to just grow exponentially and serve the communities that it kind of operates in. So once you know that, and you don't have that mindset that, if you start with that saying my business is scalable and think global already, when you sit on the blueprint on the drawing board and you have zero traction, at that point you need to imprint all of these principles. Like imagine it's counterintuitive, right? That I have zero revenue and I have to think about people, planet, etc., or whatever else, like just the ESG parameters. And now, as you know, even the listed companies globally, their leadership is getting evaluated on their ESG performance more than their stock market
Right.
performance, because the consumers reward ESG compliant companies. They reward, and that's really who you're there to impress and serve. So I think pretty much that would be uh, like kind of my sense on
No,
this.
thanks, Chandni, for summing it up so beautifully and so simply. I
Yeah.
think you've made it very, very comprehensive for someone, right? A lot of times we overcomplicate scaling a business, starting out, raising funds, and I think you just gave such brilliant clarity to everyone here. Ria, quick rapid fire for you before I let you go. What are the top three things that you see as social trends, marketing trends that every business should be caring about? And also tell us a little bit about why they should come to Social Gamma specifically for that.
Sure. Okay. So top three trends right now, focusing on video content. So short video content, using platforms like YouTube and Instagram to reach your audience, which is very effective. Second is aligning with social values. So ensuring that your brand values align with the current social values that are obviously prevalent, and communicate that clearly into your marketing efforts as well. Of course, being very authentic to your brand, as I've been saying throughout this. um, and then the third would be investing in AI tools. So there are so many different AI tools out there to personalize your customers engagement journey, improving their efficiency as you're engaging them, either through a technology product or through your own product. So there's a lot of tools out there that you should definitely be leveraging. Something that makes, I think the second question was about Social Gamma. I mean, one of the things that we as an agency pride ourselves in is that we've achieved an ROAS, which is return on ad spend, of 4.2 on average, which is well above the industry average of 2.9. So for every dollar you spend, you make a return of 4.2, which has been really rewarding for so many of our clients. So that's something that I think it's really important for us to really be focused on the metrics, the results, and constantly achieving and striving for that. So that's something that's different about us. And yeah, happy to chat with anyone who'd be open to either needing some marketing services or just some advice. I'm happy to chat with them.
Ria, you bring a very big smile to my face because you answered that question with a metric. And, saying that I get you this return on ad spend. Otherwise, that's also another place where women usually hold themselves back, right? Where they aren't clear with metrics and numbers. So thank you for putting it that way. I think that's super amazing. Jani, I think I just want to say thank you for taking the time. Clearly, we see that you are in transit and getting stuff done, but you still took the time to do this. Means a lot. Ria, thank you for coming on board with all the possible support that you're bringing to Encubay and being a strategic partner with the Global Immersion Week and sharing your insights on how people can leverage the digital landscape in 2024. We're super grateful and super excited to build with you and build together to the Middle East. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
And I look forward to carrying these conversations offline. And kudos, best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It was wonderful, very exciting conversation, and really enjoyed being there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please be backstage with us. We'll do a little tete a tete before we let you go for the day. But at
Yeah.
that note,
Sounds
to everyone who's watching live on LinkedIn, thank you so much for being with us. And we call it a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you.